Okay, now we're recording. There we are. Welcome to the Nation Podcast. I'm Eric Thurow.
Tom Jones.
And today we got, again, our guest from Santa Cruz.
John Karamanis.
So, basically, this is a special edition of the podcast. As people, if you're watching on Nation TV, this is our first live stream. We have basically a preliminary glitch as we're getting the technologies to, work. And you can see us on live stream on the youtube.com/ninthmannation/live. Pretty soon I will get that changed over to nationtvlive.com as soon as I get that. But right now we're on the live stream. And basically this week we're going to discuss things that went down in PDX. And what we're backtraining on thoughts on a previous conversation that we had, especially with John here in the first episode, about what thoughts with Butera and his progress, and how we were saying, let's just hold off and let him do what he had to do and assess things. And that's what he did the first year. Okay, he did that. Now he's making his actions be heard. And not a lot of people are happy to have that done. So we're back and we're going to discuss sort of our thoughts. There was a recent article locally here up in the San Francisco Bay Area from the Examiner.com about the Portland Thunder and how Scott Butera and mainly the board of directors immediately thought it was wise to take over operations of that team, especially when the owner himself couldn't do anything about it, and he was out of town or even out of the country overseas doing his own business, what he has the right to do. So what are your thoughts about this, Tom?
Well, I think if you're the owner of a professional sports team, you should have the right to continue to have ownership of your team without any interference from the league. Now, of course, only a certain few are going to know all the details about it, but anytime that you can keep ownership and responsibilities and all of those main decisions directed to the actual owner, that's best. If it has to go to a league where the league is actually making decisions and that's taking away responsibility, that's a really, really touchy area. And I just think that's like a worst case scenario, last option. So I don't really agree with it. Of course, I don't know all the little details, but I just think that that's kind of like worst case scenario, and it's too premature in this particular situation.
And you and I had a personal dealing last season during the 2015 season. Tom and I made our first trek up to Portland, the Rose City, and we went and we flew in there, got our car rental, and went to the game on the exact same day. And that basically in that order, we didn't even go to our hotel until after the game was over, because it was like an early or to mid-afternoon game time start, and which was a weird time to start. But because they had, I guess, the Rose Festival that weekend in Portland, which is a big deal for that city, because that's the Rose City. And Tom and I met a pretty good set of fans there, and they were all welcoming to us. We met a few of them prior to even going into the arena there at the Moto Center, and they were backtracking even saying before the Portland Thunder thing, we were talking about the Portland Forest Dragons from back in the day in the 90s. So there's some diehard fans that were diehard when the AFL first set ground there back in the 90s, and then now that the Thunder back, they want that shows that they're committed to wanting an AFL team there, and the fans, I believe, Portland's Nightman, I think is one of the truly a good loyal fans. I mean, there's a fan there. His name is Michael Summers. He's originally from California, and he's always been a San Jose SaberCats fan because Portland didn't have a team there for him until recently. But rightfully right, when Portland Thunder came, he joined the Thunder Legion and became part of Portland's ninth man. And he's a great guy. He's committed to having that team there, and he wants it. But
so there's no doubt that Portland does have the fan support. I mean, we were there in the midday, and it was crowded. I mean, it felt like a playoff game there.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of energy and intensity and everything. So, there's no doubt that they have the fan support there.
Yeah, it wasn't sold out by any means in that arena.
It was loud, though.
It was loud.
Yeah, it was loud.
Especially when they had the ukuleles or something like that, with those big old long irritating horns going off like they're at a soccer match and something like that.
Yeah, let's ask John. So, John, what are your feelings as far as Portland and how the league stepped in and took over the team?
Well, my first impression was I was a little bit angry about the whole situation, but I'd like to know what the owner's contract is with the league. Can this be done without consent? But I do kind of echo what Eric has to say. I believe that this was done without any foresight of being able to at least consult with the owner because he wasn't around. And I really feel that this is wrong, as my own opinion. I'm also dismayed with the way the league has handled it, and that's the big thing. It just really, as an outsider, makes me wonder where the league is going.
Yeah, and as in our earlier podcast, basically our first major podcast, which is actually podcast 2, John and I basically put our foot down and say, hey, we need to put our foot down, and then Tom came in and said, yeah, I do agree with this now that looking at it. And from just a standard outside point of view that we have to give Scott Butera his benefit of the doubt, and the way that, because everybody was jumping on him for not taking any kind of action during the season last year and doing things last year. And he's there basically to assess and learn and adapt to what needed to be done. Now, with that said and past us, what Scott Butera has done is basically uncalled for. And basically, we don't like that he's just grabbing and thinking that he could be the czar of the league and take over all these teams when it's Emmerich and Terry Emmerich who owns the Portland Thunder. It's almost like saying, I own an iPhone. It's my physical property. I own that. And if I were to say, and then Tom were to come in and say, hey, you need to do I need to take it from you because you're not using it all the way.
Yeah.
Or you're not doing this, you're not doing X. That's not for Tom to say. I own the iPhone, it's my property, I can do what I want. It's according to you. But now, as far as for joining the league, that's one thing. I mean, if Butera had anything, because Emmerich apparently didn't sign his contract of letter of intent to continue participating and becoming a member of the Arena Football League, that's one thing. And that means just hold them off from participating. Now, with that said, they already made a 2016 schedule, and usually if you make a schedule for teams to go here, there, and there, on these dates,
you're committed
that's a
to
commitment
that team. Yeah,
for that team, for all the teams involved. So you would think that for any of the teams that want to be a member of the Arena Football League, they would have their letter of intent and contract to pay and their membership fees to buy into that league and to play for that participating upcoming season or 2 seasons. I think it's like a 2-year deal now with the AFL, that they would have to do that first at the board of directors meetings, and then they say, okay, once we have all this done and everything's filed away and processed, then they go on and they start working with each individual teams and their home arenas to have them start making dates.
And let's be honest.
Excuse me.
It's not like the AFL is any position to say, hey, you know what? We are the premier league, and we have owners lining up to be owners. I mean, it's not like we have that type of pull. So in order to have the attitude to say, hey, you know what? We're looking for a specific kind of owner, and we have all this criteria, and we have all this. It's like the league is not in the position yet to really dictate, to kind of be the dictators of we are looking for this model, and if an ownership is not in this particular model, then they're not going to play in this league. Right now, as fragile as the league is, they don't have commissioners shouldn't be in and pull the same stuff that the NFL commissioner has done with these other teams, and it's like you can't really throw your weight around in the fragile condition of this league. Not, you don't just welcome any owner to come in whether they're bankrupt or not, but at the same time, I don't think the AFL commissioner is in the position to where he can dictate saying, okay, you know what, we want this particular kind of ownership. And, in light of the fragile nature right now and the condition of the AFL.
And I think that, Terry Emmerich has a considerable investment with the league. And he's done very well with the season tickets. I'm sure that they're doing, season tickets. And he's got a commitment, even though he hasn't, maybe there's some paperwork, or we don't know, because we really don't know what the real facts are. But I really believe that this is going to be a major problem for the AFL in terms of a lawsuit. I smell a lawsuit coming on.
Yeah, that's what somebody was saying up there in Portland, that most likely when Terry gets back in town, he gets settled back and caught up on his local affairs right away. He's going to switch over and say, hey, what just happened? Why am I not the owner of the Portland Thunder anymore? And then he's going to go after Scott Butera. First, I'm sure he'll talk and get a reasoning behind it. Then he'll say, well, you cannot do that. Let's talk to the lawyers and let the lawyers take action. Whether they're resolving a lawsuit or not, we don't know. But that's most likely the indication is that there will be a strong lawsuit going. And a lot of people were sort of joking on social media saying, hey, when this gets done, and Emirates sues the AFL, he'll own the AFL. So this is just not like, and people are also saying, well, if this happened with the takeover of the Thunder, why didn't this happen with the SaberCats? Why didn't the league, if Fry wanted out of there, why didn't the league just take over the SaberCats, which is probably one of the most treasured franchises, along with like Orlando and Arizona.
They're like the foundation. I think the SaberCats, you can add them as part of the foundation of the Arena Football League, right?
Now with the remaining teams left,
And for them to just, the owner gets up and leaves, right? And he did it early enough, which I guess November you would consider early enough, right? A couple of months later, here we have Portland, the schedule comes out and everything, but really, we're just talking about 2 months, right? So like you say, I totally agree. It's like, if they're so easily able to take over Portland, why didn't they do San Jose? Why was this, okay, we don't know what happens, what's going to happen, and then all of a sudden, the whole team gets dismantled, and then now, 2017, SaberCats, if they come back, have to start from scratch.
Yeah, so...
Was that something almost like, well, you know what, the SaberCats are too strong, and this and that and everything, let's dismantle them? I mean, I don't know, it's very inconsistent from team to team.
My belief
Not to take anything away from Portland, though.
No.
I like what Portland's doing. I like the ownership, love the fans and everything and stuff. It's just, it's inconsistent.
My belief, the reason why it happened is because they already had a published schedule out with Portland, and they're down to 8 teams, and they didn't want to, redo the schedule and take time and delay the league to do it down to 7 teams and all that stuff. So it had to be a league thing. Things are also saying, well, why didn't the league do the same thing for New Orleans and Vegas? Well, they sort of did. Those 2 teams continued into operation until the end of the season. And New Orleans was eliminated from the playoffs early, so that's why they basically shut doors at the end. Vegas was a whole different situation. They had a dispute between Vince Neil and the principal financer, investor with that team, and they're going at it, and they're still going at it today.
Yeah.
So there's a whole issue with that with the Las Vegas team. And the cost, and it had to deal with also the board of directors, which makes up the majority owner from each team is represented and sits on the board of directors, becomes the board of directors. So they're the ones that handle the situation on what to do with the team. I know Dave Fry, he said that he wanted to make sure the players get paid because he always looks out for the best interest of the players. Now with Portland doing this, Emirates doing that same thing, and that's why he sort of delayed in signing his letter of intent to participate in the league. But back to the same that letter of intent or any questions that you may have regarding it that came up should have been dealt with before the scheduling of the teams. And there should say, okay, by this deadline, you have to have this letter of intent, whether you're going to participate or not. for the upcoming season.
And I'll also announce,
Done.
saying by this time, if this doesn't happen, then we're going to take ownership. If you can say, if this doesn't happen, we're going to take ownership of your team, right? But it almost seems like if the owner's all like, hey, you know what? Got caught off guard, was overseas and stuff. I mean, it's almost like then it becomes it becomes sneaking around, doing things when people are not around and this and that, and then it looks shady. Not that it's shady, but it just looks shady. It just opens the room for controversy.
You know, where my big concern is about this whole thing, since 2010, we've lost 10 teams, 10 franchises. And now we can add Portland to this, because if they don't come up with an ownership group, they're going to be gone at the end of this season. And that's a shame again for the Portland fans, because they are good fans. But that would make 11, and who knows who else is going to tumble this season. And this is my big concern, is the viability of this league to succeed if they don't do something that's going to be a little more owner-friendly and fan-friendly. And it's a real big concern of mine.
And you know, the thing is, to add to what you're saying is, if you're the commissioner of this league and you're trying to attract world-class ownership, you know, teams or owners that own professional sports teams, NHL teams, NBA teams, they're going to take a look and they're going to say, okay, show me what's happened in the past. And if they're seeing all this stuff and everything, they're going to have that doubt and putting their money into the league if it's run this way.
But again, I'm probably maybe in a minority here, but I don't really believe that going to the hockey teams and the basketball teams as owners of AFL, because I don't believe that they would put their best foot forward in running the team efficiently. They would be more concerned with the bottom line. Is this another expense? And I really like the idea of the independent owners, and I agree they should be strong, but we had a strong league of 16, 18 teams before. There's no reason why we can't do it, but in 2015, 2016 coming up, we really have a problem with the owners all of a sudden, and I think a lot of it is mismanagement.
Yeah, I think it's mismanagement, the commission, and there's even speculation on how Butera even became, the commissioner of the league. There's issues with that. We can't really bring that up because I was told some information about it, but I don't have the concrete proof or the rights to really say anything about that right now. But I know he was coming from a casino background. He doesn't know sports besides that fact that he's like everybody else, a fan of the sports, and he loves the sports. You could tell that he didn't know too much about arena football at the trophy presentation on ESPN. That one, he didn't know what to say. He said some mix-ups. He almost called the San Jose SaberCats San Jose Sharks.
He actually did.
Oh, actually, yeah, he did. And then, if you watch the YouTube video footage of that trophy presentation.
It's my time. So, do you want me to transfer you to Ceci?
No, go ahead and cut me out. Check me out.
All of you guys?
And we're here at Blue Water Seafood and Crab, and you can hear the voice of our lovely waitress, Jessica, here. So,
you know what? Are you ready?
So we're here at Blue Water again. This is our sponsor for our podcast. We come and host. That's why you can hear all the background noise.
Great place, by the way.
And also you can probably hear the background of the playoffs, NFL playoffs. But we're not here to talk about the No Fun League. We're here to talk about the All Fun League, as it may still exist. It needs resuscitation. We need to get CPR out there. And also to mention while we're down talking this is that all three of us, Tom, John, and I, all live in San Jose, California right now, where California is a member of the Powerball game system with lottery, and we all have our tickets in this. If we win the $800 million instantly, we're all buying the league. That's it. Right here, we have it documented. We recorded it, and it's on our Ustream, our live stream there on YouTube.
Any one of the three of us who wins is going to buy it.
Yep. And the first thing we do is welcome back Dave Fry, SaberCats.
And I would probably say we need a new commissioner.
Yeah. Commissioner.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So now bringing it back to our thoughts about how this commissioner is doing. If we're going to buy a league, and the first thing we're probably going to do is, they were able to commission to get a new one.
Yeah, he kind of looks like Norman Bates. I don't know if you guys ever noticed.
Oh God!
I saw him in person during the Arena Bowl, and when he was walking, he was.
I introduced myself to him, and he didn't seem too little thrilled to meet me or a little personable. He was like, "Hi," and he walked his way. And the guy's like, "Okay." He didn't have too much of a personality on his face.
I got to tell you, I had a couple of conversations with him on the phone.
Wow.
After Eric Myers got hit.
Yeah, you talked about that earlier.
And they continued to play even when he was laying on the grass. And he had a lot of personality, and he really showed a lot of enthusiasm. However, as the year went on, I really had kind of a real problem with the way he handled everything.
Thank you, beautiful. Thank you, beautiful. Yeah, so bear with us as we're sort of paying our tab because our waitress is clocking out and they're doing a shift change here for the nighttime crew.
But I do think while you guys are doing that, I do think that the league really has to look at the future. And I know that there's some talk about new teams coming in and everything. But I believe that they really need to shore up what they have and quit losing teams, because if they get 3 new teams, they lose 3 more teams this year. We lost 4 teams, and not counting Portland in the last year.
Yeah, I'm thinking that if you go back to where the teams that were listed upon the Arena Bowl conclusion last year, I think those teams right there were what Butera truly wanted: strong ownership, strong foundation. Rich in the Arena Football League history. Cleveland, not so much, because they moved around from New Jersey to Las Vegas to Cleveland, but they do have strong ownership with Gunn, family. And so with that said, and Cleveland has a successful fan. They get around 10 to 12,000 fans roughly per game. The Arena Bowl they had there was 17,000 strong, which is the largest in the recent history, especially under this restart of the league. And so we already talked about the Powerball. We're going to buy the Arena Football League once we win.
I was gonna buy the
SaberCats?
No, the 49ers. Tell them kick the road, John.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's good.
I'm like, bro, I'm doing you a favor.
Yeah,
Right.
And that's the assistant GM right there, the GM right there of Blue Water, our buddy Brian. You heard his voice recently. Wanted to kick Jed York to the curb, but we're not. Again, that's NFL. We're not here about the NFL. So basically, my thing is, once we have that, now that's fine. Let's keep those such teams. Let's build and let them play for the next season, which will be this season, 2016, and then let's build the idea of sort of wanting the primary tent of your arena to have an AFL team. That's fine. But don't phase out what's already there. Do that for expansion as part of what you're looking for. But
as a long-term plan.
Yeah, as a long-term plan. So like Monumental Sports, which owns the Wizards and Capitals in D.C., that's fine. The Kings owner, Sacramento, that's fine. But if you get into a market where there happens to be no NBA or NHL team, don't just settle not to go there, because they could have the great market, but they don't have the ownership behind it. If they had some kind of like local company, I don't know, name a market that doesn't have a major team right now, like Milwaukee. Well, they have the Bucks. But
well, John was talking about this earlier. To kind of go with your point, is you might have the owner of the Sharks, and the owner of the Sharks might have the NHL Sharks and a minor league NHL team, and can they focus on a third sport or a third team? They may just want to feed their expansion team, semi-pro expansion NHL team into their pro team, right?
And I do think that the friction we had with the SaberCats in the playoffs and the Arena Bowl, because the circus has been there this same week since
the arena opened. So that's no fault to the circus.
So it's no fault to the circus
of the arena.
and it's no fault to the
and it makes
arena.
Money.
But where the problem was is we have changed our schedules with the Arena League 2 or 3 times, and now it doesn't give consideration to what's going on in all the areas.
Yes.
And even if in fact the Sharks bought in an odd world, and I don't think it would ever happen, if the Sharks bought the SaberCats, they're still going to have the circus there that same weekend because it's a success and it makes some money.
Yeah, people think that the Sharks and the SaberCats were at once against each other. That's not true. Dave Fry and the Fry brothers proudly sponsor the Sharks. I mean, the Sharks are playing right now as we're recording this, and if you look on the rink at the SAP Center, you proudly see a Fry's logo on their rink, like 2 or 3 times. You see Fry's do commercials during the Sharks broadcast. You know, the Fry brothers have loaned their private jet out to the Sharks because the Fry brothers have a non-curfew thing for San Jose International Airport, along with a former Oracle CEO, Larry Ellison. Those 2 guys had the thing where they could shoot. So the Fry brothers allowed them to use their jet during the hockey season, and then the Sharks, and they even allowed the Sharks to put their logo on the plane. So there's no real battle. The love-hate, more of the hate thing was an issue dealing with the arena management, Silicon Valley Sports and Entertainment, which is city-run and operated, and the way that the league wanted to, schedule their games. And then the fact that once that was done, the fact that I just lost my train of thought. That the league started so late made it difficult for already prearranged contracted, dates that were already there, like the circus. If you remember back when the SaberCats were in Arena Bowl 16, no problem, 16,000 at the end of the arena known as Compact Center at San Jose for then. And then 2008, our playoffs, no problem. Of course, then the Arena Bowl was at the Rattlers for the last home field arena during the game before they went to neutral site for Arena Bowl 19 in Las Vegas and 20 in Las Vegas. So, and then, of course, 2007, that was another neutral site. But our playoff games, we had 13 to 14,000 at the arena. So it's not the issue. It's just the scheduling if we were to make this a SaberCat only thing. Because unfortunately, that's what we know. We're here in San Jose. Excuse me. But as far as for the other arenas, Arizona, during the playoffs the last couple of years, their first playoff game wasn't that great. But then also their playoff schedule was on a Sunday. It wasn't, and then it went up slowly. But you also got to think the way that they do the attendance in the arena football is basically almost like every other sport. What they do is not how many people come and take their ticket and get scanned with those computers at the doors. It's how many people have tickets, or how many tickets were actually printed up and sold through Ticketmaster, and that's it. They say 20,000 tickets were printed up. That's how many came to the game. Even though you can say only 3,000 went to the game physically seen in the seats, or along the arena at the bars and grabs or whatever that are through the doors. So there's a misconstrued on the attendance on that. But what you see physically in the seats is you see a mediocrity, and also the prices sort of have gone up, and the fact that this league has fluctuated so much since coming back and trying to earn a good reputation coming back from the year down, that this league needs to stabilize itself, redo it like if it was a brand new product never existed before, and they need to reintroduce themselves. So these new teams coming up, they're charging what's market value for their area and maybe a little bit below that, just because the AFL is supposed to be affordable for the family.
Now, in all fairness though, SaberCats organization, they've actually lowered their prices.
Right.
They have lowered their ticket prices. So, maybe when the league was at its height, maybe the value of the ticket was a little more. So in all fairness, the SaberCats have lowered it. But I think that's the decision upon the SaberCats themselves and not so much the league, right?
I think you're right there.
I think the SaberCats saw that, and they knew they needed to do something to get the league. And the fact that they are budget. I'm not sure what this is a single entity league. I'm not sure what the conditions are about that as far as for the different subcategories they are within the budget for each team. We know it's players get paid by the league. Nobody's getting paid under the table. There's accusations of that. Get over that. It's done. It's over with. You got different financial situations regarding the local economy of each city. Like we said previously, San Jose and Los Angeles are the 2 highest big markets in the country. excuse me, for the Arena Football League. It's expensive. Florida is kind of there with Tampa and that area, and Orlando being such a tourist area. And that's the issue with tour. You know, you think that Orlando, that's such a tourist. A lot of people are not going to go to Arena Football because they have the Walt Disney World and they have Orlando Universal Studios. The Orlando Predators get a pretty decent crowd, even when they were even off the city limits of the college under conditional ownership at the time. They did well. Tampa Bay had 100,000 people there. So they
well, compare that. To go with your point, compare it to Las Vegas. Las Vegas, there may be more of an issue with tourism in Las Vegas because Las Vegas is the entertainment capital of the world, right? So you're not going to get the tourists going there and watching an arena football game because there's just so much, an abundance of tourism, an abundance of entertainment, right? And a lot of it's free entertainment, right? Or maybe not so free, you know? But the thing is, it's like, so that's kind of an example of a tourist area.
Well, Las Vegas, I don't know about previous ownerships with like the Sting and the Gladiators, but Las Vegas Outlaws, Vince Neil and his investment group, basically didn't do it right because they had bad ownership from the get-go. They were rushed into the league, first of all. They were announced. I know Vince Neil had part ownership, like a very small part ownership of the Jacksonville Sharks, which I was thinking, okay, that's a good way to go because he said, hey, I want to be a part ownership of that team, even though in the future I don't have plans with this team, but I want to learn the process. One right there, that's a good way to go. If that's more welcoming for possible prospective new owners to come in and say, hey, let me sort of like intern with the ownership group and see how operations are handled and how things go, and let me learn about this league. That could be a good thing to go, to have that kind of as a program within the league. And he did good, but the thing is, he was rushed into handing over the reins of getting the Outlaws going. You know, so if they were to do like what they're doing now, and say, okay, well, Vince Neil is going to be an owner of the team, but don't put him in 2015, put him in 2016, so he had a better plan to get his things organized. And then he had bad communication with his main primary financer, and now they're battling it out in courts right now. That's going on right now. First, it was Vince Neil doing stuff with the league and all that stuff, and then he wasn't happy with the owner because he was blaming the primary financier for not paying bills while he's out like in Detroit, and the league takes over the team when he's in Detroit on his tour, trying to still get that income coming in from his last world tour with Motley Crue. And then his principal financier didn't start paying bills, didn't do any marketing. The internet site of the Outlaws was down, and you saw lack of any presence for internet or marketing-wise, or advertisements and trying to get sponsorships in for that team. If you looked around the arena,
the thing is, like I saw like a live feed, and a lot of the halftime show was entertainment that's on the strip. They had. Did you see the one with the impersonators? They came in and they had like was it Marilyn Monroe or something, or maybe Cher or something. I forget who it was, but they probably didn't get paid for the halftime show because their little plug was at the end of it saying, "Hey, come see us at the so and so casino hotel and all that and everything." So really, it's like, how much do they actually have to pay for that halftime show? You know.
Well, that can be said for every team. I'm sure every team works out because they're the entertainment people at halftime, depending on how big of the entertainment and how small of it is, they get the free plug as if they wouldn't. They get exposure to the product, their service, or whatever they're providing during the halftime show, even though a lot of people will probably go to the concessions or whatever, go use the restroom or whatever during halftime, but there's still a lot of people who stay in the seats for whatever reason. So they do get the free publicity, and so they do like sort of like an in trade. And that's depends on the individual team on how they want to negotiate those entertainment values with the team operations people. So that's what's it. And Vince Neil basically probably only know that was a quick way of getting things done right away. And then possibly started to say about true talent out there. So who was handling the operations of the Outlaw at the time, that's all they did. They basically said, oh, we're a Vegas team, so let's have Vegas people with shows here.
Well, in all fairness, I think even in San Jose, the halftime shows have gone down to where the level they were during the height of the league. So in all fairness and stuff, I mean, I think halftime shows, the budget for halftime shows, for maybe the exception of the LA Kiss, who put a lot more money into there.
Well, that's a different thing. Like we were saying, budgeting, you compartmentalize the different budgeting, and each team is allocated X amount. Like when the KISS first started in 2014, they on the fourth and was demonstrated on the fourth and loud, they were having their team meeting with this guy that was in charge of doing the first ever KISS game in the Honda Center, and they were talking about, and then Paul Stanley said, okay, we want to do this. But how much is this going to cost us? And the guy said, okay, $50,000.
Was it like $70,000 or something?
No, it's $50,000. So Paul said, okay, that's cool, we'll do it. $50,000 for the year, we can manage that. And the guy said, no, $50,000 for this one game. And then said, no, the league has a budget, we have to stand by, and we can't do it. We could do it once, and then we're done for the whole season. We just let the time go. What do we play? Videos on the Jumbotron, and that's it? Of like the LA Avengers or something? Say, remember this video?
But this brings up a point that the league is controlling what the owners can do. And I really believe that, the league has got to let the owners run this as a business. Not being told that they could only have 2 or 3 people selling, tickets, and they could only have so many, they can't do their own programs, so they can develop their own money coming in. I believe that they've got to let them, budget for the money, and if they got the money, let them spend it.
That's what we were talking about. If you go back to the episode, I think our last episode when I was having a conversation with Steve Watson, I think who's now the former vice president of the Arena Football Players Union, because they had their elections. That's now taken over by Ivan Soto. And James Barron, the former Chicago Rush player, congratulations on him for now winning the presidency of the AFL Players Union. So good things are happening. But we were talking about this league needs to go back to ownership stuff. We don't need the single entity stuff, and that's what's hurting the league. The single entity thing where you got the commissioner, you got the commissioner's office, then you got the board of directors, and they're all saying that these teams can only go do so much. If each team has the financial means to do whatever they want to get the crowds in the seats, and they go and push that money for their individual market, let them do it. That's their money. Of course, they're going to set their own budget, whether it be higher or lower or whatever, according to their means. So basically, that's surprising.
That's surprising to me then that there's some kind of budget set to where, and that's a little too much control when an individual team is not responsible for their entertainment for their local market. That's just a little too controlling for me.
But the one thing, get back to the Vegas and the Orlando venues. I really don't believe the Arena Football is a place for tourists to come see. Maybe the tourists or you and I going to Las Vegas to see a show, a game, and then maybe catching the show. But the tourists coming in are not going to go to an Arena Football game. The tourists going to a Disney are not going to go to an Orlando Predator game. So you have to draw from what's in the neighborhood.
Yeah, your citizens there. That was
just use a ticket holder.
And that's exactly because that's how all professional sports work. The more season ticket holders they have, the more money they make, the bigger base they have. And if you put a good product, you don't lose your season ticket holders.
Merchandising
And everything. And then you also have to have merchandising that's consistently there too.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you don't get a lot of the merchandising, and you don't have the things people want in a lot of these venues. And I think again, it's the league controlling what they're doing.
And it's funny you should say getting the stuff, even like in merchandising. I can remember, and I have it in a box somewhere. Those gloves.
Yeah.
When my son was a kid, he had one of those saber claws.
Yeah.
And you do the hand motion like you're putting a fist, and you hear, and everything. All this merchandising stuff. You're lucky if you go to the website, the AFL website, the SaberCat website, any of these teams. You're not. There's a lack of merchandise. You're lucky if you get a shirt, maybe a jersey, maybe a football.
I just think it's time for a wholesale revamping of the league from the top down. Because I really wonder, I really wonder how many teams actually voted to take over the Portland Thunder.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think there was even a vote, right? There probably
I don't
wasn't a
know
vote.
the way that this happened so suddenly.
Yeah.
And to do it with the owner, out overseas, it's kind of shady, and it's all right.
And again, why would they do it without the owner being able to be there and face his accusers?
Yeah.
That's the American way.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what really burns me about this whole thing.
Yeah.
We now don't have a commissioner that wants to be for the people. It's a commissioner that's going to do what he's got to do to do what he
More like a
perceives.
czar.
Yeah, perceives what
Yeah.
he's going to be. To make the league work. However, then you lose quality league people like the SaberCat ownership.
Yeah, and then for future people who are probably thinking about buying into the league and joining their own teams or whatever in future expansion, like Sacramento, like Washington D.C., and now with the possible deal with Univision, they're probably going to want to say no. This is too much stability. We don't trust what this commissioner is doing, and we don't want out.
Can you imagine a professional hockey team being told that yes, you can join our league, we want you to join our league, but you have to follow our rules and we're going to run everything for you? I mean, come on, give me a break.
Oh, yeah, so here we are. We certainly have a lot to talk about when it comes to this kind of subject. And it's heated debate, and I'm sure if 3 arena fans are sitting around having all of this discussion, just imagine as a fan base as a whole, would they have their opinions to say about this. So it's a heated debate. It's just be interesting to see what happens in 2016. It'll be very interesting to see what happens in 2017 when all of these additional teams are supposedly jumping on board. I still don't know what I feel about the international aspect of it, because we need to first do domestically before we can even focus outside of the United States. So I don't know, guys.
If they can't handle the 48 states,
You're right.
what are they thinking?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think the way this league needs to do, if we go back to now talking about correcting the thing, I think from the league office, if I was commissioner, the way I would do is, as far as for the broadcasting of the games, they sort of got that okay. I'd give that probably maybe a C plus to a B rating to improve the contract with the team. What I would do is, one, have CBS, ESPN still be the partners. Those are great networks, nothing wrong with them. But assign them a conference. Okay, sort of take followership of the way the NFL is. ESPN will do, say, the American Conference. CBS Sports Network will do the National Conference. Okay, so when the teams are playing, for example, when it's Tampa Bay Storm, Orlando Predators, I-4 War, that's a big game. Of course, you're going to want to have that on national TV because that's such a historic rival. Now, what you do is, so since you have an American Conference game on their network, then you have a national version now, say San Jose SaberCats versus the Arizona Rattlers on it. So you'll have the ESPN game being the earlier game since it's an East Coast feed, and that will be on 7 o'clock, East Coast time, which is 4 o'clock California time, and then you have at 10:30 East Coast time, 7:30 California time, you have the SaberCats Arizona game. So that will be good. Now, if it happens to be, say, the SaberCats are traveling to, say, Jacksonville, and you want that to be the national game, then since San Jose is the visiting team, have the visiting team's conference network broadcasting it. So they'll be on CBS Sports Network. And since it's being located in the East Coast, so it'll be the early game. For the West Coast, it'll be 4 o'clock. And then you have to have one to equal it out, have ESPN do a game, but they'll do the later game and have, say, Philadelphia Soul play Portland, and then that game will be on 7:30 or 10:30 Eastern on ESPN. That's a later game. That's how I would see it. So that's how I would do the games of the week and have them on the same day. So basically, there'll be 2 games nationally televised each week. And then you have each team to be able to have a local TV feed. And then also on top of that, have the ESPN3 go. To watch ESPN3 is a good thing.
Yeah.
So, okay, as everybody's leaving here, so as I continue to go, basically, and then once we phase out and we start transitioning to the postseason, of course, you go back to where ESPN will broadcast the American Conference postseason games, and then the CBS Sports Network will broadcast the National Conference postseason games when they're in that way, not this tournament style. And then you go and transition to the Super Bowl, and also with the playoffs, we want every single playoff game to be televised. Okay, so we get exposure for the heart of the season. Then we go and transition to the Arena Bowl. So if, like, say this last year, it was on ESPN, what they should do, since ESPN is owned by Disney and ABC, they should have it broadcasted locally on over-the-air ABC network. So, like, on here, a lot of the stations will be like Channel 7 here in San Jose and LA and New York. So that's how that would be. And then but then next year, this upcoming Arena Bowl, it should be transition back to CBS. So they alternate networks each and every year. And then CBS Sports Network, they will take their over-there broadcast with CBS Sports, like Channel 5 and all that, and broadcast it, or Channel 2, both in LA and I think New York too, and have that be done on that Arena Bowl. So that way people can see it's more exposure that way all the way around.
But yeah, I agree 100% what you're saying. But what happens here is what really is going to be the real telling point of this whole thing is, in order to do this, they need national sponsorship. I'm getting down. Just trying to work about the scheduling of the broadcast. But I'm talking about the scheduling of the broadcast. Because if you don't have the advertisers, you're not going to go to the networks, and the networks are going to say, how are we going to pay for this? Because that's how they work. But if you walk in there with some major sponsors, the networks are going to welcome you.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, when they get these deals, I'm not worried about the sponsorships. Whether it's national, local, whatever. I'm worried about when we have TV to schedule, do the scheduling in that facet. I'm not worried about the networks.
But
the sponsorships will come as part of doing the TV deal. So what you do, I'm talking about scheduling the games, period. I'm not worried about sponsorships. I'm not worried about that yet.
But it's a moot point to talk about putting it on ABC or NBC or CBS until they have a good solid base.
We already have the networks done. The networks are there. They're in place.
But they're not going to go on
I'm talking
ABC.
about how they schedule it. And that's how part of the contract, when you sign up these contracts with these networks, that's what you do it. Then once you have these schedules done, then you go out and get your national deal with, like, Under Armour, which is supposed to be the New Jersey and clothing company for the league, which has yet to be officially announced by the league. But then they have New Era as the official team cap, which has been officially announced and will be available in the arenas upon day one of the game and in public stores later on in the season. So, of course, New Era will get their commercials done. When they do the New Era hats, I hope the one where they just don't do like a generic, logo on the front, team name on the front or whatever. I hope, like if you see New Era with other sports like Major League Baseball and NFL, they have one team with probably like 20 different designs of these helmets and their logo. I hope the league gives them the right to be free creative with the logos of the Arena Football, because that gives more of a fashion trend for the league and more exposure in different ways with New Era. Because New Era is good like that, and they're modern. Whether that's going to be done in the first season to be able to do that, or if New Era comes back for the second season, depending on the length of the contract, that's what I would like to see with New Era. And then Under Armour, they're a good thing too. They're a massive company that came out of nowhere and is supported by athletes around the country, whether it's no matter what sport. So they're a great brand. Matter of fact, I just bought a friend of mine some Under Armour shoes for running. She loves her shoes. They're a great brand, very high quality, and that's where I see where Under Armour will be a success for us for jerseys and all that stuff, as compared to the other stuff like Russell and also Nike back in the day and Reebok. So. And I hope there's more freedom to design these jerseys too for the team. So that's leading up to the point. That's going back to the TV sponsorship and getting those sponsors.
So obviously, there's a lot of debate on which direction to go, what to include, what goes what. And I guess if everyone had the magic potion, then this league would be where it needs to be today.
Well,
so,
the magic potion is when we go scan our lottery ticket and we win.
yeah, okay, that is the magic potion. Yeah,
Wait.
that's right.
No, we still got it's only 5:37, so we got a couple hours we have to wait. Damn.
Oh, good. Okay, darn it.
Sorry, Nation, you guys have to wait till whether John, Tom, or I buy the league in a couple hours.
Right, but you know what? In all fairness and stuff, it's just there's a lot of potential in the league, and it's just trying to find somebody that can get in there and do it right.
And I think ultimately, like going back to the TV thing, it takes marketing. Because the TV thing is exposure for the league. You know, forget about the sponsorships for now. I'm just talking about exposing the league as a product itself. And that's its national sponsorship. So when you have those TV set schedules deals, that's one thing. Then you have to associate that with, or not associate, but or accompany the TV deals with your social media, which is what? How much does that cost? Free. Unless you want to do a paid sponsor on Facebook, on Google Plus page, on Twitter, on Instagram, whatever, or run like a 30-second ad on YouTube. Make use of your social media accounts to accompany your league, your TV broadcast. Say, X games play this on this network, X games play this. Be on the lookout, do news reports, and type-ins, do real-time updates or whatever. You know, get that done. Get the people listening and say, hey, this is going. And there's presence. And then do the same thing. Have each team do that same thing too. So, and then you have to have the website. The league needs to redo their website so they have more of a true live feed on their website. Not necessarily live video, just a live, gameplay feed on their website for people who can't watch it. And do it that way and associate with your social media that way. Right now, I honestly can say that the two best teams on social media right now from the teams that exist, Jacksonville Sharks, Los Angeles Kiss, and then slowly falling behind. I see Orlando Predators. I just looked on Instagram. I saw a lot of postings on Instagram for Orlando Predators, but they were more talking about Brett Muncie and doing that and the NFL. Yeah, it's great, Danny, that these coaches and players are doing up in the bigger league, but we also want to see more action within ourselves and get the exposure to ourselves. Because if you have all these so-called followers on your Instagram or your Facebook likes, what's good of having those followers, even one follower, if you're not utilizing it? Because that's free advertising for your marketing department that you don't have to go out and pay a couple $1,000s for a production team to film a video commercial for two ways. So you can put it on your YouTube account and then also put it on your Facebook, because Facebook now trying to push their video platform, and then to take it and air it on your local TV stations. Not just the TV station that your games are broadcasted on, but on other TV stations in the market, in that same market area. It should be universal to all other teams, not just that one network. And like locally here in San Jose, that's what I saw what went wrong. You only saw the SaberCats commercial for tickets in between their games that were broadcast. Back when they were broadcasting the games on CSW area, they would only do it within that game, or they would only do it within the 30-minute program called SaberCats Weekly within that time. But you wouldn't see that same commercial on local over-the-air channels.
So obviously there's a lot of discussion. Just this topic alone, we could probably have 2 or 3 shows on it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
and we could just keep going on and on. But I know we've been broadcasting for a while. Is there any other topics that we need to cover? Just to kind of put a closure to this.
Yeah, we've been, according to our YouTube live stream, we've been on for like an hour, a little less than an hour. I think, we just need to talk. We need to get more players' perspectives on it. I know today we're originally supposed to have James Hunden on program. Unfortunately, he's fell ill. Couldn't make the trip down from San Francisco to San Jose. But we wish him well. Maybe we'll try to get the commissioner's office on. We'll try to get Terry Emmert on, just because we want to be neutral on this. We want to have both point of views expressed as far as they want. We'll reach out to Terry Emmert. Maybe we'll have Joe Wyndham on.
That'd be
LA
nice.
Kiss. And let's see if he can censor himself like he did on the state of the LA Kiss team that he did out there from the Honda Center or where we had last year. That was on AFL Fan Zone. So we'll see. There's a lot of things we're going to discuss. We would like your feedback, though, to what do you want the nation to have. I know this is the voice of the fans, And originally we were going just to have the fans talk amongst themselves and have these conversations from our point of view, what we see the league and how we do, which is all hearsay because we want to make this voice very strong. We want to make the commissioner hear us and saying, because after all, if you don't have any fans, no matter what city you're in, what situation you're in, league's dead.
And the one thing I'd like to say is anybody out there that can get to the commissioner,
besides John,
besides me, I'll try to call him again. But please extend the invitation for him to come. This isn't my show, but extend the invitation to get hold of Eric or Tom and come on and talk and let's hear his side.
Yeah, we would like to have him.
Hey, you know what? From this point, it sounds like you've already reached out to him and you got in contact with him.
That was regarding the issue with the referee's choice to continue playing during the game in Arizona last year for the SaberCats.
Yeah, but that's good. That's good.
Different.
That's one step closer to what we get.
Monday I'll
that's
make
good.
a call. Although who knows if the league is full time this time of year?
Yeah.
Because nothing has been done on the website since. I mean, they have a few things, but even transactions since December 15th.
Yeah, like we said, it's like once the Arena Bowl is closed, they maybe do a day or two of little things, and then suddenly the door's closed, and they put a chain lock and set the alarm and say, "We'll see you later." And then when they come back when the league's open, they're like blowing off the dust off the old cobwebs and all that stuff. So it's like we need to make this discussion. We need to make the Arena Football League a year-round discussion, and not just during the season.
Yeah.
And that's where you come in, Eric, because you're the voice of the fans.
Yes.
I know.
And Tom, too. I'm sorry.
We are. You are too.
You know what? I give this guy
too.
more credit to me. He does this 24/7. I just try to.
No, I sleep. I do have some hours where I sleep.
So here's the deal. After I win the lottery tonight, we're going to make, Eric, he can leave his job.
Yeah.
Thank God, yes.
And we're going to make him head of communications.
There you go.
And let him do all the communications. That's going to eliminate a lot of problems.
Nice. There you go.
And if Eric wins, I'll be the janitor for the league.
You be the janitor? No, you'll be more than that. So
sanitation engineer at least.
That's it.
Yeah.
That sounds more technical, yeah. So that's it. I guess that's all, but we will like your feedback. So you can hear us on Ninth Man Nation Facebook, Google+, Twitter. We're now on Tumblr. So hit us back. We're on our website, ninthmannation.net. And pretty soon we'll be doing more. And hopefully our live stream on YouTube will be better. Right now we're doing a live stream, but we're doing it via the Wi-Fi here at a Blue Water Seafood and Crab. So the bandwidth is most likely not that great. We'll get a better connection next time where we'll physically have an Ethernet cable connected to the network, which is better. But ultimately, we want to hear back from you. We want some feedback.
And let's maybe hope that next time we do this, we'll be on time.
Yeah.
Yes.
So and follow us. Follow us on SoundCloud. This is where this podcast Nation podcast is. Follow us on SoundCloud and subscribe to us on the YouTube for the Nation TV because we do plan a lot. I have a lot of ideas. I'm going to talk a little bit more about with Tom. John's on his way up because he has a long commute back to Santa Cruz to enjoy the beach weather, even though it's freezing. So we'll let him go. But Tom and I, we're going to sit here. We're going to discuss a little bit more of things that we have for the future and what involvement. I posted on Twitter of how you wanted to see us. If you would like to see the Nation TV portion as we develop the YouTube platform, not necessarily just to do the live streaming, but to do video content and to get you out there and have video as another way to expose the league. Do you like to see that not only on YouTube, but would you like to see that on TV? I mean, we probably can't work where you get national deals like ESPN and all that stuff, or ABC, CBS, whatever. But we're looking on possibly doing a live show and at least having it air locally here on a local network, through a cable company here. So depending, everything's in the works. We want to do our exposure to get this, not the Nation and the voice of the AFL out there, and we want your feedback. So I will be posting another poll on Ninth Man Twitter at Ninth Man Nation at Ninth Man Nation on Twitter. So I'll post that poll up tonight within the next couple minutes, and then we want your feedback. So let us know, because this is, after all, the Nation has to have your voice, and your voice needs to be heard to be a full nation to wreck shop with what's going down in the league commission, and let him recognize that the fans want action. They want their league back.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good night.
Appreciate it.
Enjoy your weekend.